asked Angela,
Carter?
where's that? Oh, there, I was looking for Angela Carter, who's the district membership chair from 7080, is going to act as your chair for the night. And she will be introducing the various presenters. And I think at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Angela.
Great. Thank you so much, Brian, and welcome everyone. We have a really exciting lineup of speakers here tonight talking about some really topical things with Rotary today, and that is how do we recruit and retain some young professionals. So we're super excited to have 4 guest speakers here today, and welcome to our members from District 7090 who are joining us here as well, and a special thanks to Brian and his team in District 7080 for making us a part of this. So let's kick it off and get right into it. First up, we have Rebecca Fry. Rebecca has over a decade of experience in nonprofit leadership and development, running leadership programs across Australia and New Zealand. She has served in a number of senior roles, including chair of Rotaractor Australia, and sits on the Rotary International Strategic Planning Committee. Rebecca strongly believes in empowering people to create positive change in the world, launching numerous initiatives in this pursuit, including RILA Oceania, and recently chartering a new Rotary Club, the Rotary Social Impact Network. Professionally, Rebecca works in corporate strategy and local government, where she brings her strategic experience into driving positive outcomes for her local community. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Rebecca Fry.
Thank you so much, Angela. And I will just share my screen now. It is an absolute pleasure to be joining you from down under this morning or this evening Toronto time. Today I'm going to be talking about using technology to engage millennials, and I was invited here to present a session that we presented at the Rotary Virtual Convention earlier this year, which was an incredible event. And what I want to talk about today specifically is laying the groundwork to define who are millennials and what millennials want from a data perspective, and then also looking at some different communication and collaboration tools that are effective in engaging millennials in today's digital world. We'll then touch on some case studies, and based on timing, we might have a short Q&A. So who are millennials and what do they want? Millennials were born between 1980 and the year 2000. They're also synonymously called Generation Y, and they're the largest generation yet, which means that they are a massive target market for corporations and organizations all around the world, and obviously Rotary as well. Millennials grew up alongside technology. They have seen our social media channels be introduced into our lives. And for some of the younger millennials, they won't even remember an era without the internet. And when we talk about millennials, millennials have some key qualities: confidence, high expectations, and they're achievement oriented. And they really want to make a difference in their work, which is where Rotary can provide incredible value to them. Now, when it comes to Rotary, the challenges that we find is that currently 5% of Rotaractors join Rotary and transition from Rotaract into Rotary. And it's also important to understand that currently only 5% of Rotarians are under 40. Now, while this might be seen as a huge challenge, it also presents a significant opportunity for us, and you'll see why shortly. Going back a couple of years now, we did a study to ask millennials, why do they join Rotary? And the results were pretty clear. We had such a significant number of millennials saying that local service was their primary reason for joining Rotary, while also acknowledging that the social, professional development and international service elements are also attractive for them. Now, it's important to understand that while Rotary does provide local service in spades, it's not the only organisation where millennials can actually obtain local volunteering opportunities. So where we actually need to look at providing some of the value that we can provide to millennials is actually in those areas that received less votes, because that's the areas where we can provide them with something that other organisations can't, regarding leading projects and particularly regarding our international presence with 1.2 million members worldwide. Now, when we look at the barriers that stop millennials from joining Rotary, again, the results are pretty clear. Overwhelmingly, millennials will say the things that hold them back are time and money. And while these can be seen as two big challenges, again, this means that if we can solve those two elements, we've actually solved we only have two elements that we need to solve in order to help millennials join our great organisation. Now, I reference Henry Ford here because it's easy to think, all right, well, if we can make Rotary cheaper and if we can make it take less time, millennials will join. But in the words of Henry Ford, if I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. So I'm highlighting that it's actually not about making Rotary cheaper or about it taking less time. What millennials really want is they want flexibility in the choice to be able to choose what events they're engaging with, what projects they're engaging with, the meetings that they're attending, and how they engage within the organisation. They're looking for value, and that's in the context of the value that Rotary provides for their other goals in life as well. So when we look at family, friends, their career, health, and all of those different demands that millennials have, we need to ensure that Rotary is actually helping to complement what they're doing in that space. And that's where we then start to talk about integration. So we used to talk often about work-life balance, but in this digital age, really the internet has meant that our lives are integrated. We have work-life and work-life Rotary integration. So how is Rotary supporting our personal and professional goals? Now, I'll touch briefly on a couple of communication and collaboration tools before diving into some case studies. So there's a variety of digital tools that are out there at the moment that Rotary clubs are using. Slack is an online communication and chat tool. It's also used for project management, as is Microsoft Teams. Many corporate organizations are now using Microsoft Teams to enable successful communication across their organization, shifting away from email and more to that live interaction. There's also Zoom, which we're using today, as well as other online service providers for meetings. There's Workplace by Facebook, which is essentially an online private Facebook group for your organization. And then we've got G Suite, so the Google platform that has our Gmail, all of our Google Drive, as well as Hangouts, which allows you to host live meetings as well. So there's a variety of tools. I'm not going to go into the technical elements behind these tools, but there's some of the tools that are worth exploring. And all of those sites have fantastic kind of how does this work videos available on their sites. So I'll jump into the case studies now when we talk about Rotary clubs that are using digital tools to effectively engage millennials. And we're going to start simple and move into increasing complexity. So I'll start by talking about the Rotary Club de Rosario in Argentina, and they specifically started to move from a lunchtime meeting to an online meeting when COVID hit. So when we proposed talking about digital trends, COVID was not at all even circulating within the world, but obviously a lot of our Rotary clubs have had to adapt pretty quickly to not just engage millennials, but their own members as well. In transferring online, the Rotary Club de Rosario has seen a significant increase, about 50% of members from outside of their Rotary Club now joining their online meetings because they're more accessible. And rather than requiring young people to be leaving work to join a traditional lunchtime meeting, they can now access it more effectively by not even leaving their homes or offices, because they can access the meeting online. So super simple on that front. Now, the second Rotary Club I'd like to talk about is my previous Rotary Club, which is the Rotary E-Club of Silicon Valley in District 5170. And the Rotary E-Club of Silicon Valley actually meets through an online blog. If you go to their website, you can click attend meeting, and they actually incorporate a lot of the traditional elements that you're familiar with as part of your Rotary meeting and put that into a blog format. This means that the meeting is asynchronous, so members can visit the meeting at any time that suits them. And you can see on the map that they've got members right across the world. There we go, as highlighted in this photo here. The club also hosts a number of online social events, and again, they've been doing this long before COVID hit. So over the last 5 years, they've had online happy hour events and looked at how can we create that social connection beyond having to meet in person as well. The next club that I'm talking about is the Rotary Social Impact Network, and this is my current club, which I'm currently the charter president of. Our club chartered in May of this year, and some really key stats for us include that we have 31 members aged 24 to 41. So obviously have been effective in engaging that younger demographic. 97% of charter members are Rotary alumni, and really what that told us was that it's not that Rotary alumni and Rotaractors are not interested in joining Rotary, it's that they're struggling to find a Rotary club that works for them. And we also have a global presence. So we have, of our 31 members, most are based in Australia, but we also have members who are based in the USA, Mexico, Italy, Germany, and Tanzania. And a lot of them have had connections to Australia or have been attracted by the model that we're providing. And probably the biggest element that is innovative for us is that we actually have no weekly meetings. So this really meant that we could focus our meetings on any catch-ups that we have in providing value. So they're purposefully for a social catch-up, or purposefully for organising our projects, or purposefully for listening to a speaker who we would like to engage with a project down the track. So we really looked at what would our meetings have been used for, and the primary element was for information, the communication of information. And we realized that we didn't need a weekly meeting to be able to do that anymore. So what do we do and how do we engage? Well, we have a number of digital channels that we use. We have Microsoft Teams, which serves as a personalized members portal, and I'll show a screenshot of our Teams site just shortly. We also have, we do utilize Zoom, again, for special interest meetings and events. We have a SWOT session tomorrow where we're still looking at how we can evolve and improve and transform everything that we're doing in our current space. And so we use Zoom and also Microsoft Teams to be running our meetings. And we also have a Facebook group, which is our Friends of the Rotary Social Impact Network Facebook group. Our Microsoft Teams site is members only. Our Facebook site, however, has all of our supporters and potential members, and that site is kept relatively tight, but we've got over 300 members in that group right now because we've got a lot of interest in everything that we're doing. This is a screenshot of our Microsoft Teams portal. So we have a general section. It's similar to Facebook in this sense. So we have a general section where you can post different posts that everyone can like or react to or respond to. So we've got weekly messages that get popped up in there. We also have private channels, and those private channels are for our board or for conversations that are specifically for, like, not for our general members. And then we also have club channels, which are when we're trying to organize club initiatives. So you can see that we've got, you know, finance, governance, all those things, that the administrative elements that help to support our club. We also have our impact channels. So these are the channels that are showcasing the focus areas that we want to showcase our projects on. And these include, we've selected some specific areas that we want to focus on. And you can see there, we've got disaster relief, environmental sustainability, Indigenous affairs, amongst the foundation and youth projects as well. So it allows people to actually focus on engaging in the areas that they're specifically interested in, rather than having to engage in everything that the club has. And that's where the personalised model piece comes in. We also have some leadership initiatives that we engage with our members as well. One is our monthly book club. So we have a member that will select a book, and we'll all come together and we'll connect on that particular topic, which is based around personal and professional development. So it's quite diverse in terms of the offerings that we provide, and again, we allow our members to select what is providing value to them and how they want to engage on that level. During COVID, and obviously because we're a virtual-based club, we have a whole bunch of members who are really keen in hiking, and we're currently planning a virtual hike at the moment, focused on environmental sustainability. But one of the things that we do in terms of still being able to connect was we actually shared some of our own photos of our favorite hikes that we had. So even though, yeah, we haven't necessarily come together and shared these experiences together, we could still connect on a more specific level beyond just the general conversation that, or fellowship that we would have during a meeting as well. One of the questions that we often get is, how do you run service in a virtual club? And an example of this was our Op Shop Hop that we ran earlier this year for the bushfire relief, specifically in Australia. We looked at the options, and the communities were specifically asking for funds. They didn't have the capacity to be able to take on donations of whether it was clothes or food and the like, because they had suffered such devastation. So one of the things that we then did, the Australian Red Cross was looking for donations that they would then sell through their thrift stores, and those funds would then be distributed to communities affected by bushfires. And through doing that, we were actually able to generate $8,000 in funds that came from the donations that we received through this initiative. Had we simply done a fundraiser ourselves, I think at this point in time, in our infant stage, we would have struggled to raise $8,000. So this was a really great way that we could think a little bit differently and innovatively, in a way that everyone could contribute to our local initiative that we were focused on. So as you can see, we provide flexibility in enabling people to choose what they engage with. We provide value through our social and leadership channels, and the integration element really comes into play because we ask each member what is it that they want to give and gain from Rotary, so that they can be satisfied in the organisation. The last example I just want to touch on is RYLA Oceania. So this is a multi-district RYLA initiative specifically focused on alumni. And again, this comes back to the fact that Rotary alumni are really engaged in Rotary. We just need to provide them the channels to be able to engage. Our RYLA Oceania participants come from right across Australia and New Zealand. They are alumni of district programs that are then participating in an advanced leadership program. And they come together for an in-person retreat week at the beginning of the program. And then they have 12 months of content, which encompasses a leadership curriculum, a mentoring program, and a community project that they work on. Given that they're based right across the region, we again have a Facebook group where all the participants can engage and support each other on an ongoing basis. We have 2 Zoom meetings a month, where we provide leadership speakers to them. And we also utilize G Suite so that we can share content to them right throughout the year. And yeah, we also engaged, we created the whole initiative remotely. So our our operations and facilitation team, again, came from right across the region. And again, we connected monthly on Zoom and developed the whole program online. Our team had not met together before, in person, before we ran the retreat week, which was quite amazing to see. So again, flexibility, value, and integration. I'd really encourage everyone here today to consider how they can apply the principles of allowing flexibility, creating value, and enabling people and understanding how they want to engage with Rotary in the development, be it of new clubs or in their existing Rotary clubs. So that's the 3 key elements I'd like to leave you with: flexibility, value, and integration. Thank you. And I'll hand back to Angela now.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. That was, it was so refreshing to hear how innovative your club is and some of the really cool things that you're doing. So thank you so much for sharing that, for enlightening us in what the possibilities are. And I'm sure some of your ideas will be adopted by some of the clubs that are here today. So Brian, I'll just go to you and see if there are any questions in the chat room before we move on to our next speaker.
Nothing that would relate directly to that particular speech by Rebecca. So we're okay at the moment. We can sort of carry on.
Okay, terrific. Thank you so much. So again, we invite everyone to ask some questions in the chat room. We will have a chance to ask one question as we move from speaker to speaker, and then we will come back at the end if we have time, or people want to stay a little bit longer, then we're happy to answer questions at the end of the presentations. All right, next up, we have Jananee Savuntharanathan. Jananee is the current president of the Rotary Passport Club South and past president of the Rotary Club of Mississauga. She also serves as the district assistant for District 7080. She served as co-district Rotaractor representative in 2019 and 2020. And she received her first Paul Harris Fellow at the district changeover on June 23rd, 2020. Congratulations, Jananee. She recently completed her BBA at the University of Toronto, specializing in management. She'll be speaking about her journey from Interact to becoming president of the Rotary Passport Club South. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jananee Savuntharanathan.
Thank you, everyone. And I know my last name is a hard one. It's Jananee Savuntharanathan. No worries about that. So hello, everyone. Thank you all so much for taking the time to come out to our membership webinar. My name is Jananee Savuntharanathan, and I am a dual member, Rotaractor, and Rotarian. In these next 10 minutes of today's webinar, I will be sharing my personal journey of how I became a Rotary president at the age of 24 through my experience in Interact and Rotaract and being a member of the Passport Club South. I'm lucky enough to have experienced the journey of being an Interactor, Rotaractor, and Rotarian, and this is how my journey starts. My journey starts back in high school, where I was so fortunate to have an Interact club at my school. My main reason of joining Interact is likely why many join Rotary in general. I wanted to be part of helping and giving to the community. And growing up, I was always volunteering, so Interact was a perfect club for me. I had no previous knowledge of Rotary before joining Interact, so I had absolutely no idea that a decision I made when I was 13 or 14 would end up being such a big impact on my life. Interact was a phenomenal experience in high school, especially in those growing years. I learned so much about the community, about event planning, fundraising, and leadership through through being club secretary in 10th grade and president for 11th and 12th grade. When I was in the 11th grade, I learned about Camp Enterprise, a business leadership camp that a lot of Rotary clubs do around our district in District 7080. This 3-day event was absolutely crucial for me as I got to learn more about business, and through this camp, it ultimately made me decide what I wanted to do after high school. After Interact, there was no way going back. When I was looking at universities to apply to, one of the first things I looked at was to see if there was a Rotaract club. In university, like many first years, I didn't know much people going into university, so Rotaract was definitely a way to help me get to know new people as a first-year student. I had a great time starting off in a professional development role at the club and then moving on to president of the club. For me, the biggest gain in my university Rotaract experience were the professional development opportunities. As a first year, I helped organize a career panel and a resume cover letter workshop. We worked directly with our sponsor Rotary Club and our local Rotaract Club to bring folks in from different industries. This led me to check out our community Rotaract Club we have in Mississauga, and before I knew it, I was inducted as a member of the Rotaract Club of Mississauga in my 3rd year of university. Technically being in two Rotaract clubs, but that was super important for my transition from a university-based Rotaract club to a community-based one. Moving on to the community club is what really got me to get involved with our district and learn more about Rotary clubs. I was a president of the Rotaract Club of Mississauga for the past 2 years and have brought that club from one that was on the verge of collapsing due to membership decline to a much more revitalized and vibrant club. My Rotaract team has definitely helped me learn one of our core values in Rotary, which is fellowship. From planning big events such as our annual Rotaract Gala and Rotaract Sing Fest to planning smaller scale events such as the e-waste drive and Adopt a Road cleanups, my Rotaract team has really bonded through fellowship, especially through our drive and enthusiasm to help be a part of change in our communities. Apart from my phenomenal Rotary experience here at home, I've also gotten the chance to experience Rotary in the world. And my experience with Rotary in the world has definitely opened up my perspective on a whole nother level. During a university study abroad experience, I was a part of the Manchester Rotaract Club for 4 months and got the opportunity to attend a Rotary UN Day in Geneva, Switzerland. Being able to experience Rotary in the world has really helped me to see that Rotary truly does connect the world. Through Rotary's youth programs, I'm also an alumni of the Rotary Youth Leadership Awards program. I even got the chance to be a flag bearer at the opening ceremonies for the Rotary International Convention right here in Toronto. As a Rotaractor, I got quite involved with district and currently serve as the assistant to the district governor. This has enabled me to get to work with many different district committees and get to know many different Rotarians. I'm also a member of the District Public Relations Committee and served as a District Rotaract representative this past Rotary year. And so through all my experiences, the end goal was to be a Rotarian. I remember when I was a Rotaractor, I could not wait to be a part of a Rotary club, but there were many times that I thought I was too young to join Rotary. I'm super grateful that I was invited to join Rotary when I was 22. Especially for someone who went through Interact, spent 5 years in Rotaract, Rotary was my next big step. I'm currently the president of the Rotary Passport South, the youngest president in District 7080, and likely to be in the Young President's Club for Rotary if there is one. I think that's great because one of my goals as a Rotarian in general is to encourage younger membership. The concept of a passport club may be a bit tricky for some to wrap their heads around, but I can already see our club continuing to show others and inspiring others that non-traditional Rotary clubs can work. And that's likely one of the biggest reasons why I joined the neat concept of a passport club. So you might be thinking, what is a passport club? As Rotary clubs continue to evolve to meet the changing needs of our communities and our local professionals, new and existing clubs have been adopting an innovative passport club model. in order to offer members more flexibility and a broader experience. Rotaract Passport clubs determine how they want to operate, but some of the common practices, including meeting less frequently, focusing meetings on service and social activities, setting affordable dues, and measuring club health by participation rather than attendance. The benefits of a Passport club include flexibility, as having different options for getting involved in Rotary can accommodate members' busy schedules and allow them opportunities for fitting Rotary into their lives. Passport clubs also provide a broader appeal, as a Passport club often appeals to people who wouldn't join a more traditional Rotary club, and it helps keep people into Rotary who might otherwise leave. Passport clubs provide more connections as we work with many other different clubs in our district, and we work with, and as we get to know different people in the district and beyond. As well, and this is the one that definitely suits me, Passport clubs are generally more affordable, as costs are sent to a minimum because meetings do not include meals, and as well, we meet less frequently. This slide shows an expert of the fact sheet that our Passport club put together when we first started, putting together the 10 facts about our specific Passport Club South in District 7080. Our club tends to draw members from 3 cities, Burlington, Oakville, and Mississauga. However, we have been noticing that due to our flexible meeting schedule, we've also gotten members from outside these cities who prefer to join a Passport Club model. Our strategic priorities are set around service, as we anticipate each member to commit to 40 hours of service per year through a choice of projects and fundraisers that suit their individual needs. And our second priority is membership. Our goal is to have a mix of intergenerational and youthful Rotaractors, along with knowledgeable former Rotarians who want to be a part of Rotary, but can't make a standard club fit their lives. On this aspect, we currently have 3 dual members, so that's 3 members that are Rotaractors as well as Rotarians. We have a past district governor, and we have a mixture of a number of longtime Rotarians and a number of Rotarians that are just starting their journey. Passport clubs are just one of the many successful ways to engage and attract young professionals in Rotary. Let's continue to open opportunities for young professionals, as you all have already done for me, and give them opportunities to join Rotary. As I always say, partnership is the new leadership, and that's the biggest impact Rotary will positively find when they work together with young professionals, interactors, and Rotaractors. I hope through my personal journey, you have all learned something, and I hope together we can be champions in attracting and engaging young professionals, because the way I see it, it's time to make Rotary irresistible in our communities. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you so much, Jananee. That was absolutely fantastic. I remember when I first met you, the one thing you said online was partnership is the new leadership, and I have been saying it ever since. I love that, and I think that's another trait of this next generation of Rotarians that we really need to pay attention to. They're about working together and you know, contributing as a team, not just as individuals. So wonderful, and I love your journey from Interact right through to becoming a Rotarian. I think if all of us could dream of what the ideal Rotarian would look like, that would be it. So thank you so much for sharing your journey and all of the experiences that you've had along the way. So Brian, I'm just going to go back to you to see if there's anything in the chat room that pertains to Jananee's presentation that we would like to bring forward.
Nothing at the moment, but there's some interesting conversations going back and forth that Rebecca Fry, I guess, initiated through her comments about communications and various tools. And there's one there that might be something worthwhile. We'll download the chat afterwards and save it, but there might be something that the membership committee could look at a little bit more in that regard, but nothing specific to Jananee's
Okay.
presentation.
All right. Thanks again, Jananee. And we're ready to move on to our next guest speaker. Next up, we have Kirk Langford. Kirk has been a member of the Rotary Satellite Club of London since 2016. He's been involved with Rotary for many years, first as an exchange student, then as an interactor, a Rotaractor, a RILA participant, a Rotex member, and finally a Rotarian. He is currently serving as the Public Image and Social Media Chair for District 6330. And these opportunities have allowed him to experience and interact with many different Rotary clubs. And while he still has lots to learn, these interactions have helped him understand what makes Rotary appealing and interesting to both prospective and existing members. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Kirk Langford.
Hi, Angela. Thank you very much. Hello, everybody, and good evening. Thank you so much for having me tonight. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. However, my first two speakers have made themselves a difficult act to follow. So if you need to refresh your drink, go change the laundry, the next 10 minutes or so might be a good opportunity for that. So good chance to get up and stretch. All right, I'm just going to share my screen here. So give me one moment and we'll get started. So as Angela mentioned, I'm a member of the Rotary Satellite Club of London, and I want to walk you through three things that I've learned from being a member of the Rotary Satellite Club of London. This is not the exciting London. I don't have a cool accent like Rebecca. I'm London, Ontario, so not far from you folks. In fact, I'm just down the road. So a little bit about us before I dive into those three things. The very first is that we chartered in 2016 with approximately 22 members. Now, the reason I put chartered in quotations is because if you don't know about satellite clubs, if that's a new term for you, or if you've heard it, but you're not exactly sure what it means or what it refers to, a satellite club basically are members of a parent or sponsor, or I guess a host club, but they meet at a different time or on a different day and under different circumstances sometimes, or they have a different focus than their parent club. So we are technically members of the Rotary Club of London, and that's where you get the name from. So you throw the word satellite in there, and there we are, the Rotary Satellite Club of London. But we are full members of the Rotary Club of London, and so we interact that way. We meet regularly with the Rotary Club of London. We have several joint meetings with them a year. And our chair, who is essentially the same as what a Rotary president would be, our club president, as well as our president-elect or our chair-elect, are on the Rotary Club of London's board of directors. So we have a lot of interaction with them. We work very closely with them. And certainly when we started and continue today, we learn a lot from them, from attending their board meetings and being so involved with them. But we are members of the Rotary Club of London. And so from a technical point of view, we are really a committee of their club. And that's why, again, the chartered is in quotations. We're not quite our own club yet. But one of the big things about a satellite club, or one of the benefits of it, is that it's a group of people who, you know, maybe they can't meet at the same time or at the same place as everybody else in that club, but they want to be part of that. So they can meet another day, another time, with the goal of eventually becoming their own club. So instead of having to have your 20 members and you're ready to charter and do your own thing right away, you might not have those resources yet. A satellite club is a good alternative when you want to be able to have sort of your own club dynamic, but you're not quite there yet with your, you know, your required numbers for chartering, and maybe not the resources and the experience or the expertise required to do that. Our club is based around young professionals. So we did aim for that when we got the club up and running. And so the ages of our members are from 25 to 50. I think our oldest member might have just turned 51, in fact. So the rest of our members are all between 25 and 50. We meet semi-monthly. It was in person until COVID, and since then we've been meeting virtually on the first and third Tuesday of the month. One of the nice things about meeting semi-monthly and being flexible with that is our meetings aren't always meetings. So for example, our last meeting was just this past Tuesday, and we actually did a social distance trivia night as a fundraiser, and that counted as our second September meeting. So it wasn't a typical meeting, but it was still us getting together and doing a project together. The last thing that's particular about us, now this isn't specific to satellite clubs, it's specific to our club, and I'll talk about it a little bit more through one of my points, but we don't have any committees. We don't have a foundation committee, we don't have a membership committee, and I'll talk about why that is in a little bit, okay? So that's a little bit about our club. I know you may have had interactions with other satellite clubs that run a little bit differently. One of the wonderful things about satellite clubs is that they offer flexibility. So what you might notice is you might talk to someone else who says, well, we do this as a satellite club. We're probably both doing things that are totally valid to be a satellite club, but we're using, as Becca mentioned, you know, that flexibility. We're using that flexibility to make the club a success, okay? So my first of 3 tips, don't feed the pigeons. What do I mean by that? Well, in Rotary, we tend to pigeonhole people. right? Angela joins my club. Angela's an accountant. And I say, Angela, you're going to be the best treasurer this club has ever seen. And maybe Angela says, well, I don't want to be your treasurer. I look at spreadsheets all day. I actually wanted to get involved in service projects, or I wanted to be the membership chair, or I want to be president. You know, I want to improve my public speaking skills. We tend to do that a lot in Rotary. And so what we do with the young people is we go, oh, Brian, you young duckling, you, I've got a social media job for you. And whether or not he has any interest in it, whether or not he's good at it, it automatically gets sort of thrown on him. And instead of really aiming to engage that person in what they're interested in, what they might want to do, we assume what it is they want to do because they're young. That happened a lot to me when I first started. And, you know, part of it was me finally standing up and saying, wait, what do I want to get out of Rotary? I am a linguistics major. My job and my degree is in linguistics, and I'm the treasurer of our club. Now, I'm probably not the best treasurer the club has ever seen, but it's thanks to Rotary that I now know how to create a balance sheet or an income statement. Those are skills that I didn't have before I joined Rotary, but I learned because I was willing to go out on a limb, and my club was willing to say, yeah, it's okay that you're not an accountant, or you know, that you don't work in finance. It doesn't matter. What do you want to do? And so I think that's an important piece, is that we don't automatically assume someone wants to do X because of their association with Y. And we really try to get them engaged, because that's what will keep them interested and engaged, is what they want to do and what they're looking for. So don't feed the pigeons when it comes to young people. Don't assume that they want to, you know, do the social media, or that they want to be in charge of, you know, the file library or whatever it might be. Really find out what it is they're interested in. All right, my second one, and I don't know why it says number 3 there, sorry. My second one is purpose over policies and process. When we started our satellite club, the Rotary Club of London, who is our sponsor club, or our kind of host club, I guess you'd call it, is a club that has recently celebrated its 110th birthday. With 110 years under their belt, they have a lot of experience, but they also have lots of policies, lots of procedures, and lots of process. And when we started our satellite club, we felt that it was necessary to get all of that stuff in place before we really started doing much as a club. And as a result, what happened was we had a lot of, we'll get there, when it came to, when are we going to start doing more projects? When can we, you know, what's the process for getting a project? Okay, well, first you submit your project to the members, or the project committee. The project committee reviews them monthly. You'll then we'll let you know whether or not you've been approved. You know, again, we basically took what the Rotary Club of London was doing after 100 years of infrastructure and red tape and bureaucracy and restructuring and so on and so forth, and tried to mimic it. Instead of going, wait, why did we all join this club? We all joined this club to make a difference, right? Look at Beck's slide there that said, I think 53% of people want to be involved in local service. They don't want to be involved in committees and administration necessarily. And that's exactly what we had done. We had gotten so focused on the infrastructure of the club that we'd forgotten why we were there, to make a difference in our community. And so that's one of the reasons that we actually pulled back and removed our committees and sort of dissolved our committees, because what happened was we got too focused on the policies and procedures, and we weren't doing projects. And to get a project done, we were going through the same process as the Rotary Club of London, which had at one point over 200 members. So they needed more infrastructure. It required more process in order to get things to happen, or else it was a mess. And so we sort of missed that point. And so when younger members come in, I think they're often overwhelmed by the amount of process and policy in Rotary. And instead of thinking to ourselves, do we need this much red tape? Do we need this much process and policy in place in order to do what we need to do? Instead, we try to educate them on it immediately. Well, this is why you need to fill out this form, and this is why we have this election, and this is how, instead of going, do we even need that? We're a club of about 12 members at the moment, and our club has actually been more functional, and we've gotten more work done and done better projects and had more fun with no committees, doing everything as a group, than we ever did when we were a club of 25 members, but with committees and whatnot in place. Now, that being said, I'm certainly not saying to, you know, disband all of your committees effective immediately and do away with that. If that works for you, that's wonderful. And I want you to stick with that. But what I think is important is to, as a club, reflect and ask, is this the best way we should be doing things? Or has it just been that we haven't really reviewed these things in a long time and asked whether or not they're necessary and whether or not they're doing our club more harm than good? That's a tough question to ask, because you don't want to step on toes and you don't want to hurt feelings. And especially when we're all volunteers, that can be particularly a difficult thing to do. But I think if everybody truly wants what's best for the club, then it becomes a little bit easier. because it's a conversation about what will ensure that the club not only lasts 5 years, but 10 years or 20 years or 30 years. How do we ensure that? And it's through maintaining purpose. A purposeful club is a successful club. And so again, this is something we learned the hard way by being so focused on policies and procedures that we had a couple members leave. We had one member particularly, I'll never forget, that he had so many ideas and he had so many great initiatives. And every time we would say, okay, fill out this form or this Google form or this thing, and he left. And it sort of was like a slap across the face for us, a little bit of a wake-up call, because it made us go, okay, we've been focusing on the wrong things. And that's when we pulled back our committees. That's when we said, well, why do we need to have a form at all? Why can't he just explain the project at the next meeting? And if the majority of us are game, let's go for it. Let's make it happen. And that's what we did. Again, once we get to 50 or 100 members, we might need a little bit more infrastructure, but you need to do what works for your club at the time, instead of trying to mimic or copy what another club is doing. And so when those new members join, ask yourself, are we catering to what they need and to what the club needs, or are we sort of focusing on what the club has been in the past? Okay. And my last one is try again. I'm sorry, I got my slides mixed up here in terms of the numbers, but what that comes down to is, I love, Beck, that you mentioned that 97% of your members are Rotary alumni, because I think that is such an important thing to talk about. I mean, Jananee is an alumni, I'm an alumni. I think there is such potential in harnessing Rotary alumni to become Rotarians. I say harnessing like their energy, but harnessing their energy to be amazing contributors to Rotary. And I work with our Rotary Youth Exchange program. I'm the outbound coordinator for our district. And when we talk to clubs about getting getting host families, when we talk to clubs about getting new students, often what they say is, well, I don't want, I'm a 65-year-old man. I don't want to go to a high school and talk to kids about exchange. They don't listen to me. They don't, they're not convinced. And I say, oh, get your rebound students to go talk to those schools. Well, I never hear from them. Say, oh, well, that's terrible that you've been reaching out and that they don't respond. Silence. Oh, well, I haven't really reached out, but we never hear from them. Oh, well, that's interesting. And obviously I'm teasing a little bit, but when I say, when was the last time you asked them to come back or you asked them to present, we tend to have this mentality of, we sort of let them go and then we assume that they're living their life. And if they want to come back, they will. And yet I can tell you, as a young person, Rotary can be daunting. Rotary is a bunch of really spectacular, inspiring, professional people who, it's exciting when you're young, but it is intimidating. And so to be asked by a Rotarian, hey, do you want to come to one of our meetings? We would love to have you. That can go a long way. And that can be the difference between, well, I never got asked and becoming a Rotarian. So I really encourage you to reach out to your networks of Rotary alumni, whether it's RILA, whether it's Interact, whether it's Rotaract, because those students, more than you know, are probably interested and they just haven't been asked yet. I mean, even within regular Rotarians, a story I hear all the time at district conferences and other district events is, I got asked so many times to join Rotary and I kept saying no because it wasn't the right time. I wasn't at the right place with my family, with my job, with my other commitments. But then because that person kept asking, I eventually joined. And then what you hear is, here I am 20 years later. Here I am 10 years later. They stick around, and it was all that person or those people that really were tenacious about saying, I'm going to get you into Rotary. Now, I'm talking a lot about exchange for this point, but where it comes down to my club, I'm certainly not at 97%. So Beck, you've given me a goal to strive for, but a number of our members are past exchange students. I think 2 are past RILA members. And so we're constantly thinking of who from our Rotary alumni can we connect with, because they already know the name, they already know the good that we do in the community or in their community. And so it's sort of like selling to someone who already knows how good your brand is in one way. It's a very positive experience. And I think the other thing is, we've had members where, because we're aiming for a younger demographic, I've asked people and they said, I just had a baby, can't do it. I say, no problem, I'll talk to you in a year. That to them and that to me is not, I never want to join Rotary. That's just, it's not the right time. And I think in our lives, we're buying our first house, we're trying to impress our boss, so we're staying late, we're having our first children, there's these sort of big life changes that really don't allow us to join or to commit at the time. But that's not to say we never want to join or to commit. We just, maybe it's not now is the right time. So to come back to us later and say, come back, is now the right time, at least come to a meeting. I think that's appreciated more than you can really know as the person that's doing the asking. because as the person doing the asking, it can feel like a lot of rejection. But just like in sales, you know that it's that 1 in every 10, right? So aim for that. And I think you'll find that people are really appreciative of being asked to come back. Okay. And I'm going to give you a bonus. I'm going to throw it out there. Have fun. You know, this really is something I've learned. I'm a very structured person. I love Google Drive and I'm always organizing our files. And I was one of the really antagonists, because I was one of the ones that was all about the process and the policies. And I've had to learn to have fun with it. You know, I've had to learn to just step back and enjoy it. So now we have, you know, we don't have committees, but we do have wine club at our meeting. We have 3 members that will always share a bottle of wine at the meeting. And it's sort of like an inside joke, but it's so much fun, because when each new member joins, we're like, are you going to be a member of wine club? And it starts stories and it gets them laughing, and it gets smiles on people's faces in the way that a project application never could. And it bonds us together. And it's interesting that, you know, I'd like to think that I have a fair number of friends and that I'm not really looking for friends per se. And yet it's really cool to think that I joined Rotary to give back and to do good. And yet I've actually made some lifelong friends. That was something that sort of hit me in a strange way. I mean, I did Exchange, I did RILA, and all those things brought me lifelong friends. And yet I didn't expect, for some reason, to join Rotary and end up with lifelong friends. And yet I have. So I think having fun is important, and asking yourself, you know, do you have fun at your meetings currently? Because if you don't, is someone else new or a prospective member, are they going to have fun? So ask yourself, what can we change? What can we do differently? What can we do better in order to make sure that everybody leaves with a smile on their face? Because that's what will keep them coming back. All right, that's it from me. So thank you very much, everyone. I really appreciate, again, you know, taking the time to listen, and thank you to the other presenters. I have already written down so many notes from your presentation, so thank you very much. And thanks again.
Thank you so much, Kirk. My goodness, there's so many things we could be writing down, all kinds of little tidbits of wisdom from you. I think in just 3 points, you were able to share so much about the Rotary world. And I love that we've had a snapshot of the Passport Club and the satellite clubs, and it gives us really something to look at and to think about, to bring more flexibility and inviting environments for the next generation, and for some of our existing Rotarians who are also, you know, sharing some of the same experiences. Maybe not having young kids, but jobs that are busy. So thank you so much, Kirk. And Brian, is there anything in the chat room that we need to bring forward?
No, we're good to keep rolling here, Angela.
Okay, terrific. So up next is Louise McNeely. Louise is a CPA, certified public accountant, and a CGA, certified general accountant, who's been working for many years in management at a law firm in Toronto. Louise is also a tournament bridge player and is a member of the American Contract Bridge League. Louise joined Rotary 15 years ago, and she's a charter member of the Rotary Club of Mississauga, Dixie. She has been a director of most of the club's committees and is now serving as the president of her club. For many years, she was a very active member of the Mississauga Camp Enterprise Committee, and she works in the treasury at the Mississauga Rotary Ribfest. Louise is also serving on the District Finance Committee, and she's happy to join us tonight to talk to us about the young members who have joined the Mississauga Dixie Club over the years. She'll tell us about some of the things that might make her club attractive to young members. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Louise McNeely.
Thank you, everyone, and I really appreciate this opportunity to speak to everyone about a Rotary Club that I'm very, very proud of. A little bit of history about our club is that we chartered in 2009 with 23 members. It's a reincarnation of the former Dixie Club. The 23 members that we had, of them, 17 were former Rotarians, 6 were past presidents, 1 was a past district governor, 2 were youth exchange. Of our members, 4 of them were in their 30s. Since that time, we have inducted 13 members, all under the age of 34. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to keep them all due to relocation. Some of them moved away, some of them it was their job, and some of it had to do with family. Another thing is that our second president, the second president of our club was 31 when she took on that role. In 2011, our club was one of 200 clubs in all of Rotary to be in the Innovative and Flexible Rotary Club Pilot Program. That allowed us to choose how we wanted to manage our club. We didn't have to stick to the rules that had been established through Rotary for so many years. So we chose to meet twice a month. Now this is back in 2011. I know a lot of clubs are doing that now, but we did it in 2011. We met on the second and the fourth Monday of the month, and we planned a service project on another week, and we planned a social for the fourth week. Over the years, also, when I talk about inducting 13 inductees under the age of 34, we also had 6 Rotaractors and 4 Rylarians. The interesting thing about our club in Mississauga is that we don't all live in Mississauga and we don't all work in Mississauga. I work in Toronto. I live in Mississauga. We have people who live in Milton, but they worked in Mississauga. We have our past president lives in Toronto, but is a member of our club. So the demographics are interesting. In order for our club to survive, we have a dinner meeting. We don't have a lunch meeting. And that's attractive to young people because they don't all have the opportunity to have a 1.5 or 2 hour lunch. Our meeting costs are low. We meet in a restaurant and everybody orders their own meal from the menu. They pay for their own meal. So they pay for what they want to eat, and they can control their costs that way. There's no extra cost. There's no added charge that goes into the club coffers. So you pay for what you get. We keep our club dues low. That's important, I think, to young people as well. We keep our club dues low, but we also ask that everyone become a sustaining member. So even the combined cost of our membership and the sustaining member is less than some clubs charge for their membership. At our last meeting, I asked our members what they think attracts young people. This is my presentation, but it's really, I'm representing the club. So I wanted to see what they had to say. And here's some of the answers that I got. One of our young members said, "We feel much like a family." They say that the club is friendly, that we have a good sense of humor. And I have to attest to that. We laugh at each other all the time. We are informal. We're not intimidating. The fact that we meet twice a month as opposed to meeting weekly is really helpful for young people. Young people don't have as much time to attend meetings as maybe some of us older folks. Someone who came to our club after spending many, many years in another club said that when they arrived, they felt that we were welcoming. They also noticed that our club is very diverse. Our club is not a money club. We're strong in sweat equity and less on members writing checks. We like to participate in community social things that will give back to the community. Things that we're involved with. The Mississauga Parkinson Superwalk registration desk. We've done that for 11 years. We've partnered with Parkinson ever since we chartered. We do food drives for the Mississauga Food Bank. We do the Salvation Army kettles at Square One Shopping Center in Mississauga. We actually donate 12 nights, and on those nights, there are 2 members from our club. Today, we're only 16 members in our club, but so many of us are doubling up on the Salvation Army kettles. We do 12 nights, 2 people per night in a 3-hour shift. We give Christmas gifts to families in the Dixie Bloor Neighborhood Center. We provide dictionaries to grade 3 students and for ESL classes for newcomers to Canada. We've done interact workshops where we've done career sessions for high school students. We've helped with resume preparation. We've done career sessions with mock interviews at Rotaract. We participate in RILA. We participate in Camp Enterprise. We do a 50-50 draw. And our 50-50 draw is different than what some clubs do. We do, and we're even doing it with our Zoom meetings. Our 50-50 draw is you can buy 1 ticket for $2 or 3 tickets for $5. But at the end of the night, when we do the 50-50, we give 50% of that night's take to whoever won the 50-50. So a lot of times one member pays for their dinner, and we're doing it even with Zoom. We have a perfect attendance draw. We used to do an annual draw for perfect attendance, but now we do it quarterly. And what happens is people who've had perfect attendance during the quarter, we put their names in a draw and we select one name, and that person gets to decide on a charity and we will donate $200 to the charity of their choice. A few years ago, another thing that we did that was very helpful for young members is that we set up a Google Hangout. We've been doing Google Hangout for probably 2 or 3 years. And what that allowed us to do is that people who couldn't actually make it to the meeting could still log in and participate in the meeting. And we've had, I mean, somebody was even, I think we've had people in California, people in Thunder Bay, people in Hawaii logging into our meetings. So it's still counted for perfect attendance. Those are the kinds of things that we have done to make it attractive to young people. Right now, we have 6 members under the age of 34. And, you know, when we talk about 5% of alumni, when we talk about 5% of young people, we're at 25%. So we're quite pleased with that. And, you know, the friendliness and the lack of not structure, that's not the word I want to use, but the fact that we're flexible and that we're not rigid in our ways has really been attractive and has helped us with new people who come to visit us. They usually like to come back, and that's the club, the Mississauga Dixie Rotary Club. Thank you, and I'll take it back to Angela.
Thank you so much, Louise. What a very exciting journey your club has had, and I love how you've been able to recruit and retain these younger members in an already existing club, which is one of the struggles some clubs are having today. So it's great to hear what's really worked for your club and how you're, you know, keeping the desire to come back going. So thank you so much for sharing that. I'll go over to Brian and find out if there's anything in the chat room for us to share.
The slate is clear.
The slate is clear. Okay. Well, it was a pleasure to be your facilitator here this evening, and I'm going to turn things back over to Brian, and I'll have him finish things off for us. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks especially to our guest speakers this evening.
Thank you, Angela. Great job, everyone. Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Kirk. Thank you, Louise. And thank you, Jananee. I really appreciate all the input you've given. I think we've learned a lot tonight. And I hope we've accomplished our purpose of giving you some ideas of how we can attract and engage young professionals. As I mentioned at the outset, this webinar is being recorded, and check out our website and you'll be able to share with people who may not have been able to attend tonight. So again, thank you everybody that have been here tonight. And until our next webinar, happy Rotary. Good night, everybody.